Good morning. Welcome to the College of Architecture and Environmental Design at Cal Poly. We are very happy to have you here. My name is Christine Theodoropoulos. I am an architect and an engineer. I am also the dean of our college, and I am joined by two of my colleagues who will introduce themselves now.
Hi, I'm Mark Cabrina. I am an architect and have been a professor for about 20 years now. I'm the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs for the College of Architecture and Environmental Design.
Hello, everybody. My name is James Mwangi. I'm a structural engineer and a professor of architectural engineering and the Associate Dean for program support and operations of our college.
So before we begin to tell you a little bit about the college, I wanted to congratulate every one of you who have been admitted to Cal Poly and have been admitted to one of the programs in the college. You know, Cal Poly admission is very competitive. This means that you are ready to come to one of our very rigorous programs and that you are ready to kind of influence the creation of the built environment in the future. We're really happy you're here, and we really hope that you will consider joining us in the fall. What we're going to do today is give you an overview of the college. I'm going to talk a little bit about academics and about career paths. Mark is going to tell you a little bit about student life and how we support student success. And then James is going to follow up with some descriptions of the kinds of resources that we have in the college that you will use here as students. Before we begin, I just wanted to let you know that we invite you to submit written questions during our remarks, and then when we get to the end of our descriptions, we will be answering them, and so we can tailor the remainder of the program to your interests. So the College of Architecture and Environmental Design is a place where we engage in learn by doing that shapes the built environment. Our graduates are leaders in their fields, and they do many different things that transform communities. They plan communities, cities, and regions. They design landscapes, buildings, their contents, their systems. They engineer a special form of design that really looks at the technical performance of buildings, and they lead construction processes. So depending on what major you enter, your education may emphasize one of these modes, but we all do everything together. Our faculty are experts and dedicated teachers. We emphasize a way of learning that focuses on small classes that have high contact hours. People spend a lot of time with their teachers, and it's not so much that teachers impart the knowledge in a formal way. It's much more of an interactive collaboration between students and teachers in our labs and our studios. Project-based learning is at the center of what we do. We don't learn by looking at how others do things. We learn by doing them themselves. And in the process of doing projects related to planning and engineering and architecture and landscape architecture, students learn how to communicate, they learn how to collaborate, they learn how to inspire, and they learn how to lead. We have very close relationships with industry and particularly with the employers who seek the talent that gets developed at Cal Poly. We integrate this into our academic programs. So students have opportunities for internships, they have opportunities to have jobs in the college, and they have opportunities to have jobs in the professions. And they typically develop very close relationships with industry mentors through all of these different avenues. We collaborate closely with the Cal Poly Career Center, and in any given year, we offer 4 or 5 different job fairs that offer different slices through all of the industries that shape the built environment. And our students have multiple opportunities while they're at Cal Poly to be out in the firms, in the companies, learning about different pathways in their careers. Now, we all love San Luis Obispo, but there is a whole lot to learn elsewhere. And so we offer off-campus programs, and we also offer study abroad programs, field trips, competitions, and other vehicles for engaging classes with the world beyond San Luis Obispo are very important to us. And we are especially proud of how many students every year place in very competitive national competitions. And we have competitions across all of our disciplines. And it's something that for me personally is a great, great source of pride for the college. Now, all this practice that we do means that our graduates develop excellent technical skills. And we are ranked by employers as among the top in the nation for schools that prepare graduates for careers for which they are ready on day one. And so all of this kind of comes together for us. We offer accredited programs in all of our fields. Accreditation is basically a quality control method that invites experts from industry and educators from other schools to come and help a school become better. It's also a way to ensure that we are meeting the needs of employers and that we are current with changes in professions, because these days things are moving very rapidly, and our students have to have a very, they have to be prepared not only for the changes occurring while they're in school, but they have to become change agents themselves. Because all of our programs are accredited, it means that our graduates have the education they need to get the licenses or credentials that are necessary for them to practice in their field. So our graduates are licensed engineers, licensed architects, licensed landscape architects. They become certified city and regional planners. And in the field of construction, they often accumulate many different kinds of certifications that are specific to different areas of the industry. And in fact, some of those certifications the students complete while they're still here at Cal Poly. So there will be more about this later, but what I wanted to do now was to give you kind of a brief overview of our majors and our programs. We work together to envision and transform communities. We do this in teams. And so even though you may have been admitted to city and regional planning or landscape architecture, architectural engineering, or construction management, it's really important, I think, that you have a feel for what the other majors offer. So I just wanted to sort of say a few words about that. City and regional planners create sustainable communities. They do this by helping communities kind of plan for themselves. The work that our graduates do are very often connected with public agencies or with private consulting firms. They're very skilled in community engagement. And at Cal Poly, the planning program is known for helping students learn how to physically plan. So there is a design component in it. We also see at Cal Poly that through the accreditation of the bachelor's and the master's programs, students are very well prepared when they begin these. And all of our programs in city and regional planning are accredited by the Planning Accreditation Board. Landscape architects design meaningful outdoor places. They are designers, but they focus more on the outdoors rather than the indoors, and their job is to balance ecological concerns with human use and human activity in the outdoor world. We have a 5-year accredited Bachelor of Landscape Architecture program. It is accredited by the Landscape Architecture Accrediting Board and prepares students to be very facile designers who are knowledgeable across a rather broad range of disciplines. Architects design buildings, we all know that, but they actually design so much more. The graduates of our architecture program have multifaceted careers, and they certainly engage in building design and construction, but they enter allied fields as well, such as urban design, interior design, product design, even virtual environment design. We have a 5-year Bachelor of Architecture program that's accredited by the National Architectural Accrediting Board, and we have a post-professional master's program in architecture that focuses on collaboration with engineers. Architectural engineers, they make the buildings work. Engineers are designers too, but they design the technical systems. At Cal Poly, the architectural engineering program focuses on structural design, and because we're an earthquake country, particularly focuses on seismic design. And because of that early focus, we have one of the most rigorous undergraduate structural design programs in the country, and we graduate students who are ready to begin structural design practice. The bachelor's program is accredited by ABET, the Accrediting Board for Engineering and Technology, and there's a post-professional master's program that really goes into more depth in terms of theory and aspects of practice. Now, last but not least is construction management, and basically what construction managers do is they transform designs into reality. So all of those other fields rely on construction management to help them realize their goals. At Cal Poly, the construction management program is effectively a leadership development program. It is a place where people learn how to manage resources, human resources, time, money, materials, a program where they can pull together teams to be able to implement very, very ambitious projects. And you know, if you can learn how to manage a construction project, you can basically learn how to manage anything. So those students have grounding in business practices and grounding in team leadership. The bachelor's program in construction management is accredited by the American Council for Construction Education, and they just opened a new minor in heavy civil construction in collaboration with the Department of Civil Engineering. All of our fields have minors. And what that means is that students can major in architecture, say, and minor in construction management, major in city and regional planning, and minor in landscape architecture. And so you will be spending most of your time in your major field, but there are avenues to be able to expand into another interest area. Employers especially like that because they start to see a breadth of ability to appreciate allied fields. We also have a couple of minors that are interdisciplinary, one in sustainable environments, where students from all disciplines at the university come together to ask the question of how do we make the built environment more sustainable. And they undertake projects, many of them for our campus, that have been realized. We also have a real property development minor, and that is designed for students who might be interested in the world of real estate. It helps them understand what happens before a project is designed, how you pull together the kind of potential for a project, and then how it goes through the development process and ultimately the construction process, and even in the end, the facilities management process. So I hope this gives you like a sort of an overview of the programs we have to offer. I'd like to step aside now so that Mark Cabrina can tell you a little bit about student life and student success in the college.
Great, thank you, Christine. Christine spoke of the strong learn by doing emphasis we have in all 5 of our departments. And the great thing about at Cal Poly in the College of Architecture and Environmental Design is you're immersed in your major on the very first day of classes. But in addition to your major classes, you're also taking general education courses and support courses in the math and sciences. So I wanted to give you an overview of the kind of support in academic advising to help you through general education, your support courses, and major courses. There's a very incredible community of support in academic advising at Cal Poly at the university, college, and department levels. The Mustang Success Center is our first year freshman advising center. The Mustang Success Center helps you transition from high school to university life, helps you with Cal Poly policies and procedures, general education and block scheduling, and has the Freshman Success Program to help students develop proper study habits and workshops for students that are struggling along the way. At the college level, we have the CAED Advising Center, which is a welcoming, safe space for students to discuss any academic concerns, any other things going on in life, or oftentimes just to come in and chat. We have 2 wonderful full-time advisors, Mitra and Nadine, who are there from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. They're happy to take appointments, but one of the things we really take pride in about the Advising Center is it's a drop-in center. That means that students can come in at any time as their needs are and meet with Mitra or Nadine. The Advising Center is a great place to help you understand your overall degree progress, to look and think about off-campus programs, minors, as well as a great conduit to connect you with faculty experts in the departments, as well as resources across the university. Now your department advising, that happens, your major advising happens at the department with our faculty and department heads. After this meeting, we have a series of department presentations, and I really hope that you can attend one of those, as I've been amazed at the incredible dedication and care our department heads take for each and every student in their majors. In addition to the department heads, faculty have close student relationships, interactions in their courses and labs, and therefore there is a lot of formal but also informal advising students get in connecting directly with their faculty. Christine also mentioned our incredible job fairs and connections to industry. A lot of that happens through our Career Services Center. Now, you may not think of the Career Service Center as a freshman, but I want to encourage you to think about that. The Career Services Center has our Freshman Focus program, which is early academic career advising and can really help students along the way who have alternate career interests or who perhaps whose career paths are not as clear to them. Now, we're very fortunate at Cal Poly, and especially in our college, to have students that have multiple interests. And Christine already mentioned the 8 minors that we have in our college, and our students are also taking minors across the university. One of the great things about minors, Christine mentioned the Sustainable Environments minor, is that the minors also connect with general education courses, oftentimes counting for both GE and your minor. And for this, I really encourage you to think about pursuing a minor. And a great way to do that is just to start talking to people about it. So if you're interested in a minor, the advising structure between university, college, and department is a great place to do it. And to simplify things, I would just recommend you start with Mitra and Nadine at the College Advising Center, CAED Advising. You can even email them, caedadvising@calpoly.edu, and start asking questions about minors, and they will help connect you. Another way our students are actively involved across the university is through student clubs. as well as different professional organizations. In the College of Architecture and Environmental Design, our students are actively engaged in clubs that help them develop industry connections. They make connections across their peers, creating strong social networks, and importantly, offers opportunities for student leadership. Over the last 3 years, one of the things I'm most proud of is helping support an active group of faculty, staff, and especially a group of students in the area of diversity. The college hosts a whole series of interdisciplinary workshops that help us understand and develop aspects of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the built environment. So speaking of the built environment, our Learn by Doing emphasis places heavy demands on our shop and facilities. And for this, I'm very happy to introduce my colleague, Associate Dean James Mwangi.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Christine. Thank you, everybody, for being with us this morning or afternoon, depending on your time zone. For the next 4 to 5 or even 6 years, the college will provide tools and environment to enhance your learn by doing. And in doing this, we hope to mold you to become a successful professional in any of our 5 programs upon graduation. The following facilities are available to support your success and make you ready on day one in your career. Typically, when we think about our needs here and our tools and environment in our college, we group them in basically 4 categories. We think about technology. We think about, just because of the nature of our programs, design. And then we think about the actual learn by doing in making. And finally, sometimes you got to do some testing of what you just built. So we're going to look at those 3 or those 4 categories independently. The first one we're going to look at is technology. So basically, when you come to Cal Poly, the first thing that we want to think about is what tools do you need for your computing services. At our college, we do have a 4-member IT team that is going to be helping you, working with you one-on-one as a student, basically to go over your IT needs. Because of the nature of our program, we do require some minimum recommended requirements for computing to be successful in our college. If you look at our college website and sometimes specific department websites, you will see what you need as far as your computing services are required. For instruction, every department has a computer lab for instruction. And basically loaded in those computer labs are professional software that you need in your career. Like Christine said, most of our faculty, pretty much all our faculty are professionals in their own field. So they do know what is the current that is being used in the profession. They use the same software so that you are ready on day one upon graduation. And for that, that software is usually free to the students, free of charge. Part of those will be basically for software that you need for sustainable construction, digital media, collaboration tools, etc. And so when you come to Cal Poly, just make sure that you meet with our IT team and make sure that your computer is to the standard that either your department needs or the minimum that the college is asking. After that, of course, we need to do the design. So when we look at design, most of your learning is going to happen is basically what we call our studios. So our studios is where you're going to spend most of your life here at Cal Poly. So what does a studio basically look like? Okay, so this, for some of you, this is going to be basically your living quarters. These spaces are accessible to students 24/7. So you have access for these areas whenever you need it, and you're going to spend a lot of time there. When you come into school, depending on what classes you are taking, that space might be available for you for one quarter or multiple quarters. It could be available for you for 1 year, for example, depending on the sequence of classes that you are taking. So you're gonna have all your tools there. You don't have to move them back and forth. If you are in a, say for example, depending on your major, you need some design codes, you don't have to move them from space to place. You might keep them in the lockers in those spaces. So that is where most of our learning does happen. Besides that, we do have resource facilities that we use, for example, to help your design. And these include, for example, what we call the new research center. So in this research center, basically you're gonna have the tools that you need, and we have a director there, student support there to help you in your design requirements. Besides that, we do have our shops that will help you. We have a Photoshop, we have a photo and media center, we have a plot center, and this is really the spaces that you use to make your designs become documents that can be discussed, or for example, how do you share that information with the rest of your faculty or your fellow students. To be able to do that, then we have basically our spaces where those discussions happen. We have galleries here, we have what we call the bag gallery, we have the KTGY, and this is really where the information is exchanged. The learn by doing actually happens in these spaces here. You are able to communicate what you are, communicate your design with fellow students as part of that learn by doing. From there, then you got to go now, you have designed you have the technology, you have learned from your faculty, you have designed this project, whatever your project is. Now you really got to go into the making. So when we think about making, what we have in mind is basically changing that your design into reality. And in this case, we have our shops. So the shops that we see in this case, we have what we call the CAED support shop. We have a metal and wood shop. So you will be able to do anything, depending on what your project requires. Either it is wood or it is metal, you go in these spaces. And sometimes you are making is something that require a bigger space. For this, we do have what we call the Simpson Strong Tie demonstration lab. And we do a lot of, big structures here, community, if you wanna, we engage our students in community projects. Some of those prototypes are built in these spaces and then, moved to sites. So after we are able to do our making, one of the things that we absolutely do not forget is what Christine talked about, and we call this the Poly Canyon. So most of you are gonna be looking forward to every spring to participate in this, sometimes week-long, sometimes 2-week-long, project where the students will build a livable structure, build it on campus, and move it to what we call a Poly Canyon. And the students are supposed to spend a weekend sleeping in their structure that they built. So this is usually a fun time in our college, and everybody looks forward to these design village activities. So after we have built all this good stuff now, sometimes depending on where your career path wants to take you, if you wanna go to graduate school, for example, we wanna engage in applied research, or sometimes you go to test the materials that you are using in this construction. Then we think about what facilities do we have for testing. In this case, then we do have our testing labs, and basically our testing labs, we do have what we call a shake table for applied research, where students are able basically to build models and put them in a shake table, for example, and see exactly the nature. Like Christine said, we are in California, we really highly think about earthquake design, and these are areas that, or equipment that we can use to test some of your designs. Besides that, we do have our testing materials labs. Okay, for example, you wanna know, what is the strength of some steel that you are using in construction. This is where it comes to life. students hands-on, who test these for strength. And not only that, so we have the also concrete testing lab, what you call the concrete, we have what we call a high bay lab, we have a concrete lab, where students actually do participate in making concrete, testing concrete for everything that you need as far as design parameters are concerned. And besides that, we do always, we come back and one of the other things that we always try to participate in every 10 years is what we call the solar decathlon. So our college has been very successful in participating in this activity. It's an experimental design competition that our students participate in. And you don't have to be from one single major. Pretty much all the students in the college will participate in this activity, where basically you build almost what we call a net zero solar house and look at pretty much all the aspect of the component of that house basically being self-sustaining. And we have been very successful, and hopefully some of you will have a chance to participate in this. Unfortunately, we would have loved to see you live, but given the circumstances, we will take what we got right now. We hope that you and your families are staying safe, and we cannot wait to see you on campus in person. Thank you, and I'll give you back to Christine.
Thank you, James. We are now ready to go for your questions. We are seeing them coming in. So I'm going to start by reading the first one, and then I will, one of us will answer them. So someone has asked, how flexible will my schedule be if I majored in architecture as well as minored in sustainable environments? Mark, would you like to take that one?
Definitely. So the sustainable environments minor is a really exceptional model of how you can develop interests across the university in sustainability and make time to degree and even finish in 5 years with that minor. And that's because that minor is designed as a curated list of exceptional courses across the university campus that address issues of sustainability, many of which are GEs. And then the capstone experience for that minor is typically students in their 4th and sometimes 5th year, which is 2 interdisciplinary courses. And Christine mentioned the kind of interdisciplinary projects. And we have numerous examples that have been implemented on campus. Our whole sustainable approach to our food service largely comes out of a series of students actively engaged in that class. So that's a really great question with the sustainable environments minor, and that is true of many minors. So that's why I really encourage you, if you're interested in developing your interest in minors, is to really start thinking about that freshman year. You don't have to decide right away, but I think it's great to start talking to different people, peers, and certainly advisors.
Thank you, Mark. So the next question I see is, I read that architecture majors do not take electives. Is this correct? If not, could you explain more? I think that the key is the word elective, because the university classifies certain kinds of courses as electives that are outside of the majors. Architecture, in fact, has one of the most robust elective opportunities that I have ever seen in an architecture program. We refer to it as the 4th year away program. In the 4th year, all of the major courses are effectively electives. And the students travel all over the world. The students do some very interesting interdisciplinary work here on campus if they choose. We have programs in San Francisco and Los Angeles and Washington, DC. And in conjunction with those sort of 4th year away elective sequences, students can focus on their own special area of interest. So when you see the word elective, keep in mind that it often is referring to a classification of a course rather than the real elective qualities of a program. The next question is, How did the college adapt classes in the spring to online learning, and how will Learn by Doing philosophy be affected if online learning is to extend into next year? Mark, would you like to kind of give your take on that?
Yeah, I really appreciate that question, and I think it's probably on everyone's minds, and certainly all of our faculty staff are very deeply engaged in this pivot to remote teaching and learning. Of course, you're probably very concerned about fall, and I also want to kind of think about the big picture of the next 4 to 5 years, because the way I want to answer that is I'm very proud of how our college has handled this. James mentioned our IT and support staff, who have been amazing in making sure that every single student has access to technology that they need. We have an instructional designer as part of our support who has been working 12-hour days, to be honest with you, helping support faculty. And the thing that I really want to share is that we are able to do things and connect with students online in ways that we haven't been able to do before. So the active industry engagement that we speak about continues online, where all practices are already using these technologies. So we're able to actually pull in professionals and mentors into our classes through Zoom and other technologies. And the other thing we're able to do is develop a sense of community across multiple labs and studios for sharing ideas and best practices. And to give you a picture of that, we've been part of a series of national seminars on how do we transition to online studio education, for example. Our first year faculty, which is an incredible group of faculty, our first year studios include all architecture and architectural engineering students, so it's a very large group. They have really taken initiative on an incredible software called Concept Board, which is it turns out it's a German software, but we've become kind of exemplaries on how we can use this software, which is intended for sort of business applications, and use it in an educational setting to help support collaboration. So I know it's a question on everybody's mind, and I hope my answer, what I want to convey is the sense of, well, Learn by Doing in action is not just with students, it's with faculty and staff. And when you start with a very strong community, as we have in our college, we've been able to implement this, I think, in very strong ways. And we're connecting with our students in ways that we didn't see happening, and that has been very, very productive. So I hope that helps.
So one of the questions that we often hear from students is, can I change my major? Mark is familiar with the process for that, but I thought I would begin by letting you know that Cal Poly is different from other universities and that students apply to the major. So you have been admitted to one of the majors of our college, and that is your starting point. That's your entry into the College of Architecture and Environmental Design. And we ask people to start in their major before they continue into another, but Mark will say a few words about how that process works.
Definitely. We definitely recognize that you've been asked to select a major at Cal Poly, and may, over even the year since you've selected that, might have developed other interests or understand your majors better. We definitely do ask that every student do start in their majors that they've declared. But if you do think you're interested in changing your major, it's best to start that conversation very early. And the university has a process for that. And the way our college works is it's all going to go to the CAED Advising Center. And on the answers I've seen already that we've kind of provided a link for you on the university process, which we call the change of major inquiry process. Sorry about that. It's just a great way to communicate, and that goes directly to our college advising. It is much easier to change majors within the college. And what's important to see is that we really want to help students maintain their progress degree. So for example, because our architecture and architectural engineering students are taking very similar courses in the same year, it's very easy to change majors between architecture and architectural engineering in the first year. And that's quite intentional. As a high school student, you probably don't necessarily know the difference. If you're trying to change from another major into the college into architecture or architectural engineering, I would suggest having that conversation very early. If you're interested in changing into CRP, landscape architecture, or construction management, the nature of those curriculum provide a little bit more flexible opportunities for you to change majors into those.
So we have time for one more. And one of the ones that I thought would maybe be an interesting way to describe more what learning is like is a question about how the college organizes courses across lecture time versus studio and lab time. So I'm going to mention it generally, but then I thought I'd maybe ask James and Mark to talk about it from the perspective of their own fields. We have some courses that are primarily lecture courses. And then we have a lot of courses that we have as labs or studios. And we begin our students' engagement in those kind of learn by doing activity courses very, very early in their education. And many of the studio and lab courses do rather interesting back and forths between lecture and activity and laboratory, so that students are kind of drawing from the best method depending on what it is that's being communicated. At Cal Poly, because of our focus on studios and labs, students spend more hours in class than I think I have seen in any other school, but those hours are not just being passive hours, they're very active. And so students are doing their work with their teachers, as opposed to just receiving information from their teachers. But maybe, James, could you tell us a little bit about how you mix lecture with lab in your teaching? Oh, you're muted.
So, like I said before, I'm a structural engineer and a professor of architectural engineering. And in architectural engineering, the way we run our labs, they are usually 3-hour blocks of lab, and you meet 3 days a week for 3 hours. And typically, although you, like Christine said, the fact that you have a 3-hour block doesn't mean that I'm teaching or you are sitting there and listening to the professor for 3 hours. Sometimes the way I teach my class is I will teach, for example, I will bring the concept for about 45 minutes to half an hour, and then I'll have the students do an activity. So we are doing this design as we go. We'll come back, discuss what they have found out, and maybe teach for another half an hour. So in total, I probably do actual teaching for about an hour for the 3-hour period, but then the students are actively doing other activities, in the same lab, in my presence, on a one-to-one for the whole 3 hours. But the actual teaching is only that 1-hour block. But there's always back and forth. And the classes are usually, small classes, like Christine said, usually we limit those to 16 students per class. So for 3 hours, you get to know your faculty, your professor, and the professor gets to know your students very, very well, because you are always together. And that's basically how we run our labs in architectural engineering. And maybe Mark can talk about architecture, because it's probably going to be the same in landscape architecture.
Yes, definitely. I think it's important, we are a large program in architecture, and that means in any one given year, we might have 8, 9, even 10 different studios. And one of the things I'm most proud about our architecture curriculum is that there is enough flexibility in the curriculum and the different faculty and studio approaches that our architecture graduates really develop their interests and different ways of knowing and approaches to design. The way we keep the commonality across all of those sections is through some of our large lecture courses. And I think this is such a great question because we do something that I think is unprecedented when you look at curriculum nationally. We have what we call a series of building technology and systems integration, which are core courses on our second and third years, which are large lecture classes that all of our majors are in. And each one of those lectures is connected with an activity or discussion section, which is part of their studio experience. And what that means is we're able to make sure that all of our students are getting the necessary professional skills, the technical skills, the sensibility about how to build in a sustainable way. But they're able to implement those in their individual studios in their own way. It is true, as James mentioned, you spend a lot of time in the studio, but I think it's really important to understand it's not like a class in high school, let's say. It's really something that you are so engaged in and you want to be there. So oftentimes our students are spending so much time in the studio because they want to be there. And the other thing, the aspect of learning that way is your studio is a series of peers and close friends. And I'm still very close friends to my friends, to colleagues in undergrad. That was some time ago. So I think it's an incredible way to learn. And there really is a great balance between the lecture and the lab, but we're very, very kind of, I think, heavy emphasized on smaller class sizes and that lab experience.
Thank you, Mark. You know, this comes to the end of our broadcast time because we want to make sure that you all have plenty of time to transition to the meetings about the different majors, which will start at 10 o'clock. So in closing, I just wanted again to congratulate all of you who have been admitted to Cal Poly, to let you know how excited we are that you're here and how much we look forward to working with you in the future. You can get more information about the college from our webpage. There will be virtual tours. There will be student-hosted Zoom meeting chats and a list of frequently asked questions. My name again is Christine Theodoropoulos. I'm the Dean of the College. My associates, Mark Cabrina and James Mwangi, have really enjoyed meeting with you today. And we are available to answer further questions. We'll stay online for a little while and just do those in writing. And if you want to ask me anything else that might be a little more personal or complicated, my email address is theo, Theo, @calpoly.edu, and I look forward to hearing from you.